Hello and welcome to our very special LinkedIn Live. This is a book launch party and an opportunity to get some great advice and insight from my special guest, Heather Black. She is the CEO of Supermoms and as of today, a best-selling author. So welcome, Heather. Really fun day.
Oh, it's been a really fun day with the team. Thank you very much, Heather, for having us here tonight. And thank you, everybody, for joining and finding out more about the book. It's very privileged to have all your support. The essence of this really is to help accelerate the careers of more Salesforce professionals. So I really hope it helps all of you and I can shed some more light on what it's all about tonight.
Perfect. And I'd love for you to share with the team with the audience a little more about just the past couple of days. I know that you have your very wonderful Supermoms team. You were in London at the Salesforce Tower and doing your book launch. And just for us on the West Coast in the United States, it's only noon and it's 8:00 for you in the UK. So maybe just share a little bit about the past couple of days for you.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we just had our team get together, but we've been obviously talking about as Supermoms as an organisation, we're super passionate about educating people about how to launch and accelerate their Salesforce career, and the book is just really part of that. Collectively as a team, we're always training. We're sharing content every week through lives and through blogs and our newsletter that we send out every week. And really, this book is a gathering of all of the information and blog and contents that we've shared over the last 2 or 3 years. In pulling together the book, I actually pulled together a lot of content that we created and shared over the years and pulled it all together, and obviously created it in a way that made the book so it pulled together. So as a team, we've just really enjoyed and celebrated what we do. We've had some amazing feedback from our audience, and so obviously our emphasis as a team has been sort of getting it out there, sharing it, and spreading the magic of Supermoms a little bit wider through the book launch.
Oh, perfect. And I did want to make sure to mention that for today, the Kindle version of the book is only 99 cents at Amazon. So there is a link in the comments. It's capital says book launch. And if you go there, you can purchase it for 99 cents. You'll actually go to a landing page that shares some other fun goodies and information about the book itself. But it's an undertaking, right? To actually finish a book. People dream about writing a book, intend to write a book, but it's different to actually get one completed and published. What was really the inspiration behind that? And what was the experience of just that book actually getting it published? Share that for folks. I know there's a lot that will be listening that have that on their to-do list someday.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I've always had a vision for writing a book for the last 10 years, and it's been sat on my bucket list, and it was on my goals for this year. So I'm really pleased to have actually got it done and stopped talking about it. But the book that I finally pulled together this year wasn't actually the one that I've kind of still got in the back of my head and actually will be my next project. And I think the reality is that feeling like you're going to write 40,000 words from scratch can be quite daunting, because it's like, where do you start? Going back to, I think it was May or April this year, I went for a swim, and I normally get really good ideas when I go for a swim. It's really weird. I came out, I was like, actually, what book could I produce that would be easier for me to write, that it lends itself to our audience and what we talk about at Supermoms and what we want to be our sort of voice of authority, if you like. It just got me thinking about all the content that we write, the training that I do, which is about training Salesforce people as Salesforce consultants. And I was like, oh my God, like we could just pull together like a lot of this content. And I went home, and literally on the Friday night, I'd come up with that idea for the A to Z strategy. Obviously, it was a little bit creative thinking about what everything was, but I'm very proud of the fact that I have managed to get a project in chronological order with an A to Z. Like, that is my proudest moment, I think. It took a little bit of doing, of like using some of the letters creatively in a creative way, but it definitely works. And I'm very proud of that. But the reality was, within 3 hours on a Friday night, I'd pulled together content into those categories, and I had 30,000 words. And I was like, oh my God, like it was that easy to pull together the content from everything that we'd written, because I think every Salesforce professional can share their learning with others, and we all have our favorite platforms and mediums for doing that. And for me, I love writing, and that's why every single week we put together a blog, we send it out in our Career Boost bulletin through LinkedIn or through our newsletter. And we're creating all this content. And the reality is, you know, as with a lot of content that we create through various mediums, it can sit there that may get picked up in SEO, but then it might just sit there and not necessarily get looked at again. And this book really is that way of compiling all that information that we've already written, already got out there. And as I say, definitely tweaked it so it's consistent and curated in a way that mirrors it. But I had 30,000 words in 3 hours on a Friday. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, that was like, okay, that was doable. And then it was adding the flavor, you know, looking at the missing parts, pulling things in, you know, from other places. And it was my summer project. So I'm a big advocate of not working more than 40 hours a week. But the reality is I don't have my kids' alternate weekends now. So I was like, I've just got to get this done. And I set a deadline because I was like, it's our 7th birthday. It was our 7th birthday in October this year. And it was kind of like, right, that's my deadline. Then I spoke to publishers because English grammar isn't my strongest point, to be fair. So obviously within our team, they do vet it, hopefully, and, you know, look at the grammar and things. But I love writing besides, so it doesn't restrict me. But I was like, I need somebody to, you know, sense check it all, do the editing, and kind of put that formula together. So I had two sort of sources of expert, really. Shah Wasmond, who's my mentor, and she runs a course called The Published Expert. So she takes you through all the formula of like, how do you put a book together? What are the different components? And she's been my mentor for like 5 years, and writing a book and getting a #1 bestseller is one of the things that she specializes in. So she, you know, I just learned so much from her, and that's helped me create the book in a certain way, think about the components, think about the launch. And she introduced me to Rethink Press, who are the publishers for the book, and they did all the grammar checking, the editing, and all the work on Amazon. And that, you know, took all that bit off us really as an organization and made it all come together. So I just need to put together the content. But with Rethink Press, they needed it 3 months before the launch date. So it gave me a very clear deadline. You know, it meant that those weekends I didn't have the kids, I was nailing down and really getting it done and digging deep some Sundays. It was like I'm just, especially when you get to the final bits of reading it for the 5th time, you're just like, okay, and just all the final tweaks. So, you know, I did work extra time. I didn't do loads of things during the summer, but I had that deadline to get it in. Then Rethink Press have had it for 3 months, you know, and then they sort of go through the different things that you need to do and the editing and the proofing and everything like that. And then they do the covers. So it's just having somebody hold your hand, having a deadline, looking at, you know, if you're producing this content in different mediums anyway, you know, I encourage you all to write a book. Like if you're writing or speaking or doing podcasts or YouTube videos, all of that can be scripted and sort of put together. So there are 2 other books that are in the pipeline now. One is How to Become a Super Salesforce Admin. Clearly, we've got that one and a lot of content for that already. And the other one will be, you know, how to become a super mum more generally, how to balance work and life. And that's the one that I've been sat on for a long time, which hopefully will be mainstream published and will be more wider to reach more, you know, women and you know, her parents, anybody that sort of talks about it. And with that one, it'll be about the ambitious women mindset that I talk about creating those things. So there are more books to come, but I think once you've done one, it feels easier to do others, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's one of the things I appreciate about you is you are someone who invests in coaches and classes and making sure to be really working with people who can help guide and direct and be, you know, borrow their expertise. And that's such a value. And to be able to put all of this knowledge into a book that's less than $20, it's also just an incredible value for someone to take advantage of, to read and use that knowledge. And today for 99 cents, of course. But I think that the timing's really interesting because with the, I guess, much more prolific, expansion of AI and how that is integrating into, all parts of Salesforce. The demand for consultants and consulting projects is getting invigorated like never before. And the timing's really good. Could you share a little bit about your journey from someone who sort of was a user of Salesforce to becoming an expert Salesforce consultant?
Yeah, absolutely. And this, for those of you, thank you very much for all your lovely comments, by the way. It's I've written the book from my journey. Like, I do very much start from the beginning and the steps that I went through, and where what we might call rookie mistakes, if and this book is really there to help you mind that gap, because as Shellen said, if we can invest in learning and training up front and mind the gap on these things, then we can be more successful much more quickly. And I'm a big advocate of everything I learn wanting to share with other people, for them to not make the same mistakes, or to learn quicker and be better and faster. And you look at that in sports people, right? Sports people all have coaches who educate them, and it's the same in work. So massive advocate of that. And I think with all the projects that we've there's continued innovation and projects. And going back to, I suppose, the start of the story, I became an accidental admin for a non-profit. I was running a non-profit at the time that supported young entrepreneurs into business. It was a coaching organisation that offered business and career coaching. And I'd sat with Salesforce with the free licenses that give to non-profits for like 2 years. I'd never used a CRM before, no idea what it did. And it was only through meeting another non-profit organisation and them giving me a demo that was like, oh my God, now I get it. Now I see the potential. And the key lesson there for anybody listening is that doing a great demo to an organisation is the key thing that can shift their mind from going, what is this, to, oh my God, I want this now. And I was just like, a light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And now look where I am, and that amazing. But once I got and understood what Salesforce could do for my nonprofit, it took it from, I went on an admin course. And this is the key reason why, again, I write this book. I went on an admin course and learned admin. I then took it upon myself to go and build Salesforce for my nonprofit that was running. I then went and did a consultancy skills course that Salesforce ran at the time, and it doesn't include everything that it covers in the book, but it was around the design principles. And after I did that course, which probably was about maybe a month or two later, I had to come back and redesign the whole system because I hadn't designed it in the right way. And so there's a fundamental difference between doing an admin course and knowing how to build flows and objects and things, to understanding how to be a consultant and designing the system. And Salesforce ran this course, which was, what I did as a consultancy skills course at the time, which taught you the design disciplines, but it was an in-classroom course for 5 days, and it was absolutely amazing. And it's such a shame they don't do it now. But when I go on a course like that, and all the courses that I've been on, which is the business analysis, the change management and agile project management ones, I come away and I write a formula of like, exactly how would I apply that to a project? What are all the steps that I would take? So everything that I've learned, I teach in my consultancy course now. Obviously, some of that is in the book, not all of it, because there's no way you could cover all of that. But it made me realize, okay, there's more that I needed to learn, and it wasn't just the technical skills. And designing that system and making it right took my nonprofit at that time from 100k to 1.4 million in a year. And we went from 4 staff to 40 million, to 40 staff. So 4 staff to 40 staff, and 100k to 1.4 million, because we could demonstrate compliance, we could report on our impact to funders, we could market to people effectively, we could track our fundraising. Like, it hit so many points that it grew my nonprofit. And on that journey, I had to pivot at that point, because we were very largely government funded, and we'd won all this work through having Salesforce and, as I say, being able to demonstrate all these things. But in the UK, what happened is the political party changed and all the funding stopped. And I was left with an organisation that was no longer sustainable because we had been reliant on the public funding that was. And so I had to be in a position where I pivoted, and I'd seen the power of Salesforce so much that I was like, I want to go out to other non-profits and help them achieve the same success that I had done using Salesforce. And because I go back to that first point of that demo, I was like, I need to go and demo this and showcase what it can do for the non-profits. And so I did a lot of events. I would, do events and attract non-profits to it, talking about it, showing demos to create that light bulb moment. And I'd convert a lot of non-profits who'd never even thought about using Salesforce to use it. And that's how I then started to build my consultancy. But in that journey, in my, starting out as the rookie, if you like, at that point I had the admin, the app builder, the advanced admin and the consultancy skills course, because that build didn't exist then, there was 5 certifications at that point. That was it, 5. All that time ago. I realized through doing then consultancy projects that I needed those additional skills. I needed business analysis and what that really meant with vigor. And I did a 4-week course on business analysis in classroom that was $4,500. I did a week-long change management course in a classroom that was $2,000, and an agile project management course that was a week-long in classroom course, again $2,000. And I had coaching, so I spent $11,000 on all these different courses and disciplines. But I can safely say there is no way that I would be able to do those projects without that training and that discipline, because there were 2 at risk of failing. And, having since grown a consultancy through our successful formula and process and strategy, I have overseen 700 projects with 350 non-profits. And I guarantee that where the risks go, where the project has a risk, where it goes wrong, is if something hasn't been followed, in a certain business analysis, agile project management or change management hasn't really been adhered to on either side of the fence, or achieved in a way, is where it's fallen down. That might not be anybody's fault particularly, because you'll always get something that's a bit eeky on a project. That's the reality. But it's those softer, what you call softer professional skills, that is where a lot of the projects will go wrong, rather than the technical design. And that's why I'm a big advocate of it now, and why I keep, we really emphasize this at Supermums, that it's not just about the technical skills, it is about these consultancy skills that you need to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed in a study that 10K did last year that the demand for business analysis or business analysts had grown by 55% in 2022. So pretty amazing. And that ability to even start there with moving into the consultancy type of roles. But I love that you talked about that balance between the technical skills and some of the, it seems so odd to say softer skills, because they're so important and they're actually so often the strategic skills. But aside from the business analysis, change management, agile project management, what types of those, I guess, softer skills do you see that really help a consultant stand out, both from being hired, like maybe the things that they come to that they can bring to the table, and then just success in the project? So along those lines, what should people, evaluate in themselves and see, do I have these skills? And if not, how would you go about learning them?
Yeah. No, great questions. So it takes me to my X and Z in the book. I have got X and Z. X is the X-ray, right? So what I encourage at the end of the book is that almost you evaluate the A to Z of a project. So, I've talked about all the different things from A to Z and the different topics. And a lot of those topics of A to Z are components of business analysis, change management and agile project management. I sort of do a deep dive into certain elements of those things all the way through. But it's really important to do that X-ray, to go, sorry, what's gone well? What am I really good at? What don't I like? And where did it go wrong? And to properly evaluate it. So, continually improve. And that's what I found. I'm my own worst critic, and I'm sure that a lot of us will resonate with that of listening. And that's why I built so many strategies and tools and structures that I show in my consultancy skills course, and we give some away free in the book, is because we need to learn and go, well, hang on, why did that go like that? Okay, what do we need to do different? What is my process? And we need to have a process of how we work on projects, because our job as a Salesforce professional is to go in and implement a system and process with a client, right? So we need our own system and process to implement. And there's no way we can remember all these things that we're meant to do on a project without a system or process. So what I wanted to do is equip people with the A to Z process. So X is about X-raying. How am I doing as a person against all of these different things? And to talk to the clients or, the team you've worked with to say, how did I do? How did we do? How would we do it differently? So take that time. With that, then looks at Z, which is your zone of genius. I did well. I'm very proud of these more difficult letters at the end. But your zone of genius is about knowing what you're really good at and sharing all this learning with others. I mean, that's where, all of you can be in this position right now if you have an appetite to share what you're learning with others. That's what I'm doing, right? It's right. Just, everybody has this capability. And the zone of genius is about, if you can zone in on the product or the industry vertical or the type of role that you have, whether it's a BA or project manager that you want to specialize in, you don't have to be good at all those things. If it's a certain industry or a Salesforce product, find the thing that you love the most and really focus in on that zone of genius, and then start talking about it internally within your organization, your team, and sharing that, going and writing a blog about it for Salesforce Ben, for example, or going and sharing it on your local user group. It doesn't have to be writing a book, but, start to build out your personal brand around it, because I grew my consultancy to, the volume that we did. And we had, as I say, 700 projects, 350 clients. So if you think about that, that's an average of 2 projects per client. People kept coming back to us. So over 60% of our clients was repeat and referral. If you build trust, you build authority, you have a process and structure, people will be blown away by your professionalism. And as I mentioned with the trainees on my consultancy course today, I said, I'm teaching you how to do a Sales Cloud implementation today. Take these tools and strategies and show them off in your interview and process, because if you can go forward with a process and a clear structure and a clear approach, people will trust you and come to you. You'll get that salary increase, you'll get more clients, you'll build your profile. And I felt very privileged to win the EMEA Partner of the Year award for Salesforce.org, through growing the consultancy. And you can put sweat, blood and tears, and I've learned, a lot of, we all have to learn, and you will make mistakes or things won't go right. Every project has a grief cycle. There is always something that won't quite go as you want it to. But we keep building and learning from that. So I think, they're the soft skills, Shalon, that I think is important, is to kind of just believe in yourself. You're not going to be good at everything. So focus in on your zone of genius, stay in your lane. You're only going to know what you're really good at if you do the evaluation, and then ramp from there.
So I'm fascinated with the comment you made about every project having a grief cycle. Could you talk a little more about that? Because that resonates with me as having been in sales leadership and the customer, working with a consulting firm, and I don't think I was prepared for that. So I'd be interested from a consulting standpoint of what is that? How do you approach that as a consultant? And then perhaps what's the interaction with the client of that do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely share this is where you can all mind the gap on this. So through my experience and seeing where projects, fell down, I wrote then a risk mitigation log, and there was 22 risks that typically would come up. And there's also 7 different reasons why a system won't get implemented, which I cover around, looking at sort of legacy issues, if you like. So there's a very formulaic way of going, let's look at how we can mitigate these risks. And so I share, they're in the book actually, a lot of those risks categorized as part of that. You want to talk through the client and the team and a prospect if you're in the sales team to go, right, these are the things to think about when you're implementing a project. Can we just talk through these areas and check that we've got them covered and we can mitigate all the risks? It's very normal as part of a project management process to do a risk mitigation exercise. And that can happen at the very outset from the sales cycle. So people are aware of all the things that they might need to think about, what resources they need, what training they need, what talent they need to hire, what the costs will be. And they're aware, because having implemented Salesforce for so many organizations, and I've, my role partly as well, I've done a lot of implementations, but equally then as my consultancy career, I sat in the sales team, is these teams that you're going to work with don't have any idea of the risks or any idea about what is needed. So we are there to educate them. And so you can avoid or mitigate that grief cycle of something going wrong as much as reasonably possible by making sure you're doing a good risk appraisal process at the beginning. And for that to happen, you all need to know what the risks are and to have a set of them to go through to do a proper formal risk analysis. That educates the client on what's needed and what's expected of them, what investment they're going to need. You can then feel safe in the thing of whether you even want to do the project with them, because that allows you to assess if it's the right thing to do. And in the book, I also talk about how to evaluate the opportunity. I'm a big one in terms of that, evaluating the opportunity. There's actually 27 questions you should ask at interview, or 27 suggestions of questions, because I think it's more important that you interview them rather than them interview you. Obviously, they're going to interview you, but you should equally interview them to go, actually, do I want this project? It's very important that there's a two-way process. And so we can avoid that grief cycle. So this book will help you avoid all of those mistakes. And the more you get it right, the more that you are going to accelerate your career. You'll get better promotions, you'll get better feedback, you'll get the better reviews, and the more successful you're going to be. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, really. Like, you want to sort of, have that process in place.
It's so fascinating. I think that structure, when I found Super Mums as I was looking to move into Salesforce Consulting, and I wanted the forms and the checklists, and I wanted all the structure. That's the primary reason. And it was so fascinating to just see all the years of work just compiled and available. One of the things that I think plagues consultancies at times is revenue, right? Bringing in enough revenue, their billable hours, bringing on new consultants, but needing to grow. So what strategies do you share in the book specific to really winning business, and once you've done that evaluation, decide you want to win the business, what strategies have really helped you land new customers for the projects that you want?
Great question. So every Salesforce professional has to have sales skills as part of what you do, because you have to, I talk about the 3 E's. You have to enthuse, empower, and educate your audience all the way through the project, from the very start to the very end. Now, at the beginning, when you're in the sales process, you have to enthuse, empower, and educate the executive sponsorship team who are going to buy this and invest in it. They have to see the return on investment for their organization and what it's going to do for them to go, yeah, let's sign on the dotted line. So you have to be able to understand their pain points and challenges, talk about them as a business or a non-profit, understand their 3-year business plan and their goals, understand how Salesforce can implement not just in one department, but the wider, and future-proof the system and organization, and educate them on what Salesforce is as a product, because as an example of that, quite often it might be the fundraising team that would come to us and say, we want Salesforce. And we say, okay, great. We do know Salesforce can also do marketing, service cloud, or, whatever the case management, all these other areas. Like, oh no, we never even knew. And then all of a sudden, that's where we then get the other projects, right? Because they assumed it was just for one area of the organization. So from the sales point of view, you need to be confident to really explore with them, what the organization is, what their pain points are, what they want to achieve from it. You then need to propose the technical solutions. So you don't go in and sell the product first. You sell the pain points and the vision of what they need to achieve as an organization, and whether it's commercial or non-profit, and then say, okay, well, we could help you achieve X, Y, Z and solve that problem through these technology solutions. If we were to look at the return on investment for that, it means you're going to spend £20,000, but if that gets you another £1 million revenue, happy days. Are we all happy with that? Okay, brilliant, it's no brainer, let's move forward. And so I talk about that stuff in the book. We talk about how to sell Salesforce. We talk about how to do return investment strategy. We talk about how to do a great demo and show those things. And these are all things that I've learned, right? I didn't know this from day one, but it's really incredibly important to know how to do this stuff. And that's how then you start winning work. So it's just the book's a really good checklist to go, as I say, with the X-ray, have I done X, Y, Z, and why am I losing stuff,
of genius that we spoke earlier is a missing link for many people. So we have the opportunity to speak to so many just amazing professionals, but that lack of clarity around what is their zone of genius, exploring that, discovering it, and then being able to really share that and to get the word out. I know we talked about a few things in terms of blogs and writing. Is there anything else that you recommend for someone who, has some experience, but looking to launch into consulting, or perhaps has been a consultant for a while, but really looking for that next big step in their career, of what they should be doing to brand themselves, but also to just position and build the case around them being ready for that next jump?
Absolutely. So I think on that, it is about showing you've got to be a professional. And I believe to be a professional, you've got to show that you have a structure and formula and recipe of how you work and how you achieve results. So going back to your point about the zone of genius, when I was running the consultancy, we specialized in non-profit implementations. And we specialized in having a recipe, if you like, with the structure and everything we're sharing in that's shared in the book, and what I share in the course is, these are the tools and templates we'll use with you. This is the process we're going to take you through. So that is how people are successful. They show their professionalism and how they move forward. And that's how you grow a consultancy, or that's how you get the promotion in the job. Because if you can show how you do something really well and you understand the ingredients behind that, you're then in a position to teach other people that. So as I grew a consultancy, I had other consultants coming underneath, right? And I had to put in place a structure and strategy for them to teach them how to deliver. Equally, if you're in a job where you're then taking a more senior position, you need to teach and manage people beneath you. You need to teach them your recipes. So you want to find the niche that you're in. You then want to, create that formula, the set of, as well I share, these aren't in the book. There's a couple of tools and free tools and templates we share as part of the book, where we've got business analysis questionnaires. You need your own versions of those, or equally our versions, if you want to obviously get those from the book and the course, and professionalize your whole approach to everything. Because that, if you're in a position where you can teach that to other people, that's going to get you the promotion, and clearly articulate that in any interview or meeting to get a promotion.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. And I do want to just mention, please feel free, if you have a question for Heather, feel free to put it into the comments. We can field those questions now, or if you're watching on the replay later, we'll just keep checking back and we can certainly update with with information. But I do have a couple of additional questions that were shared with me, and where I had reached out to some of the folks that had registered and asked if there were any specific questions. And one that came up a few times is they shared stories of projects going sideways, like something really going awry, or having a leadership change or conflict within the organization, and being in this just really precarious situation as a consultant. Do you have any advice around how to manage the difficult situations that can come up when there's somebody's disappointed or upset or wanting to make big changes in the middle of a project?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one is you've got to be confident in your own skills and abilities. So I would never have been confident to do agile project management without doing a course in it and understanding it, and then being able to hold that with the client. So people have said in some of the testimonials of the book, and this was exactly the idea, is that the book is there to make you laugh to some degree, because you will get these comments that through and you're like, okay, what do we do about this? And you're like, trying to go, okay, so there's humor in there. These are things you're going to hear. So for example, I've definitely been in workshops where the client's gone, well, what do you mean I can't have the 100 requirements? I was hoping to get them all. And if you are that person with no agile project management training, no formula or process, and you are a yes person, you are going to feel very awkward having a conversation with that client about why they can't have the 100 things when there's clearly not enough budget for it. And that's where I found myself, which is going, okay, how do I do this? Which is why then I took the Agile Project Management course, because I was like, I need to have that authority and structure. And the right way of doing this is to go into the client and train them on agile project management and say, right, the project is going to be led in this way. This is what agile project management is. This is why it's the recommended global approach to technology projects. I'm going to teach you this as part of an hour training session. And then when we do the actual implementation, we are going to apply this process to the whole project. And so then when they say, oh, well, why can't I have all those things? It's like, well, using the agile project management methodology, we are going to prioritize these things using Moscow rules, which means that you're not going to get all those things. We're going to prioritize them. They're like, oh, right, no, perfect. I get that, because you are aligning with a professional discipline that is world renowned, and it sets the benchmark for prioritizing time and budget and the expectation that you're not going to get all the requirements. And so I've been on, in terms of being the rookie, I went into projects and had those icky moments, which is why I then realized I had to invest in change management training, agile project management training, and business analysis training, because there was no way that I could manage these projects and these awkward situations without that confidence and authority and having a professional approach to these projects. And so, it's just about minding the gap, really. And the book kind of gives you a lot of that understanding of what you need to know. It won't give you the how to do everything. But we, at Supermums, we can certainly support you to learn more how to do things if you want to. But the book will give you the checklist for sure.
Perfect. This actually makes me cringe, because in my role as a customer, the consultant came in and did not take that approach. And my response to they didn't say agile project methodology. I wanted it done. And I said, I'll make the sales team do it. And I just want it done. Like, I don't want to do all this. We're really busy. Just get it all done. And then I'll roll it out and the team will use it. And it was terrible, because it was everything offline, just got put into Salesforce and was complete. And then when we used it as expected, it didn't have any of the magic that was possible. And so this really stuck with me as just how amazing it would have been for that person, that consultant, to say, okay, let's back it up and talk about that methodology and having that approach. And I would have had such confidence and respect in that, even if it wasn't what I wanted. So I think that's such a powerful message. But we do have a couple of questions. So Bruce's question is, given your focus on nonprofit Salesforce projects, what is your recommended approach for a Salesforce admin to approach a nonprofit to propose helping them on a volunteer basis? I know there's such emphasis on getting some work experience, and this is an approach that people often want to take. What's your advice to have success with that?
I think there's a couple of things there. I think it depends on your experience as a Salesforce admin. At Supermums, for example, we take people through our course, but we check that they understand and learn everything, and they work on a non-profit project and get work experience, but they work alongside somebody who's already experienced and that they've done a certain level of quality training. So if you're kind of, and I'm not saying this is you, Bruce, but obviously just answering this question more broadly, if you are just qualified as an admin, don't go and work for a non-profit all by yourself without anybody overseeing it, because first, you don't know if you're doing it right or not, and two, there's nobody to verify that, and it is a big ask. And I have worked with the smallest non-profit organizations, and I would guarantee out of every project I'm going, okay, this is an interesting one. They've got a £5,000 budget. The smallest non-profits can be quite complicated, very complicated in some cases, implementations. And so never see a non-profit as an easy implementation. I think the approach, if you are experienced and qualified to do a non-profit implementation, is one, make sure you've got the BA skills, the change management and agile project management skills to hold a project. Because as I set out to do this with non-profits, I quickly realized I didn't have those skill sets and I needed them, which is why I invested 11 grand in doing it. But my day rates were £400, right, as a consultant with those skills. So it was worth it. I'd paid that off in 20 days or something, working on those projects. So, our course at Supermums is £1,000. So you paid it off in 2 days if you're winning work and getting it. It's no brainer in that sense. But you need all those skills to go into a non-profit if you're going to implement it by yourself and to do it. And that's where I quickly found out, where I needed to be a consultant. But I would find non-profits to work with and not volunteer, but charge them, right? Because if I've got all these skills, I would go out and reach out to them, and that would be through user groups or running events and doing demos and attracting them to me and promoting that within non-profit groups online in social media. And just really building a reputation. But my background was non-profit, so I'd emphasize that as well and build my personal brand. And over the years, I've built my personal brand massively through the networking and through the events that I was doing and sort of raising awareness. So it just is really about going with a clear proposal, the right skills, the right offering, and sort of putting yourself out there, really.
And someone, let's say they didn't have the skills and experience yet to really run their own project. What would you recommend they do instead of that? I know that tends to be sort of a commonly described approach to getting some work experience. So if that's not the path, what other ideas could people take advantage of to get some experience, get some hands-on?
The first thing I sort of encourage is if you can't work alongside somebody, ask to shadow. Find a mentor that you'll work alongside. At Supermums, we give everybody a mentor. They meet with them every week. They work on a project with that mentor and with somebody else that understands the system. Like, you need to surround yourself with a package of support people who can verify your work and to check it and support it. Shadowing them can be equally great to start with, to see how do they do things, because then you learn from them and you can pick it up. So ask to shadow, reach out to people, and then if they see, and offer to write up things, or even write it up even though that's not part of your job. Don't just sit there and listen, but write up what you've heard and start practicing logging those requirements. Share that with the person that's shadowed, and if they sort of go, oh my god, this is really great, or they give you feedback on it, then you might then start getting free or paid for work experience with that organization. So you need to sort of show people what you can do, demonstrate a professional approach to it. Again, it's so important to, how do you write up? If you don't know how to write up things, that's why you need to read the book or do a course, find out. You need to invest. And there was no way I felt that I could charge out, £400 day rates as a Salesforce consultant and do an implementation by myself without having all those skill sets in the end and investing that time. So, investing that time and money is really incredible. It's important that a lot of Salesforce, Salesforce and organizations have had what I call digital belly flops because people have gone in without that right skill set. And none of us want to have that risk with a client. We don't want to have a digital belly flop series of projects, and we don't want to be responsible for that. And I talk very much in the book about how I start off talking about the expectations we set. We want to transform their organization. We want to make them all happy. We want to add a lot of value. And we set these expectations, but we can only deliver on those if we are professionally trained and skilled up to deliver on them. So, surround yourself by the right people. And going on to Yasmin's question around the support, I've invested a lot in support and training to develop my Salesforce career, as I mentioned. Equally with writing the book, I invested in the right training and support. I have invested over £40,000, actually more than that now, since leaving university, on being the best I can be, or do the best job I can be in writing a book or being a Salesforce consultant, and sort of developing that. So we've got to continue investing in ourselves, learning, and putting that out there. And otherwise we can't do it. We're not going to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've been doing this for a while now. What have been the biggest changes you've seen in Salesforce consultancy or consulting over the past number of years? And then if you were to, imagine the future, what do you see coming, and what would you anticipate that people will need to pay attention to in the next 2, 3, 5 years in terms of consultancy and how things might be changing?
Great questions again. So as you alluded to earlier on, there was this big emphasis on business analysis and more emphasis, and that's because there had been digital belly flops, because Salesforce didn't train in it. The only reason I kind of then saw it as a professional discipline is I was researching what other skills and experiences other consultancies had. And, obviously it's not things people like to talk about, but the reality is that, there was organizations that were not getting successful implementations, which damaged the reputation of the product, right? And it's not the product's fault a lot of the time, it's the business analysis process. But business analysis does not stand alone. Business analysis and agile project management and change management are completely intertwined disciplines. And I think change management is the less known one spoken about, but the three cannot coexist in isolation. The way that you deliver business analysis has to be completely mindful of change management and the culture of the organization, type of stakeholders you're dealing with. You're dealing with people. And so you've got to engage and enthuse and empower them. And there's very clear methodologies of how you would do that in a very considered way using change management disciplines. And that's the way you communicate through business analysis and deliver on that. So those two things are intertwined. And then with agile project management, when you do business analysis and they come out with all of these requirements that far exceeds time and budget, your agile project management is the things that allows you to manage all of that business analysis in a way that then focuses on the most top priorities and manages things within time and budget. So they just can't coexist, quite frankly, without the three things coming together. And that's very important going forward, because we continue to need to focus on really good, successful implementations and adoption. And that's why there's been this big push to BA. But as I say, those three things go hand in hand, which is why on our course we cover all of them. And in the book, I talk about all of them. But I think with the future as well, there's constant innovation, technology. We've got the addition of AI products on top of everything else, and keep adding layers and layers and layers. And unless, again, we have this formulaic approach to developing systems and processes, new things will just get put on top of broken things and things won't work necessarily. So adding new products in requires you to kind of relook at your processes, relook at how you do things. And so none of these skills will ever go away. The reality is that more organizations will have to adopt technology, will continue to go digital, will continue to add other products. But as Salesforce professionals, we still need to, yes, we can learn the technical skills, but we need all those other things to make sure they're adopted heavily. And what there has been a lot of talk about is fatigue of people. And we talk about this in the embedding Salesforce and digital adoption, is that because a lot more people are working from home, working virtually, there's something called digital fatigue, where people haven't got the concentration spans, don't necessarily learn things in the same way, they're not necessarily in an office altogether. So we talk in the book about how do you support user adoption. How do you deliver a gold Rolls-Royce strategy to training, particularly as things evolve and the way that we all work evolve. We've got to be creative with some of that to maximize engagement. And we've worked with some amazing sponsors on this book, and a lot of the sponsors have free tools that you can use and great resources. So it's not just my content in there, it's where they've added a lot of value, say free stuff which you can take straight away. But Improved Apps have done a lot around digital adoption, and they talk about a lot about this fatigue, and they've created some great free resources to kind of support that. So we just have to keep learning and keeping up with these trends, really.
Fantastic. Well, and I know you have some special things happening today and tomorrow. Why don't you share? So it's still the middle of the day here, but you've already achieved some really exciting milestones for the first day of the book launch. And I know this couple of days in terms of books getting out into the world really makes a difference. But why don't you share with everyone what's been achieved so far, and then how everyone can get involved and enjoy some of what's special right now in terms of pricing and extra goodies and masterclass, anything you'd like to share.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. Yes, I know it always feels weird, doesn't it? Like we've had a whole day and you're just kind of starting out. We managed to achieve number 1 in 5 of the categories on Amazon already, which is fantastic, through people buying the book. So that's really exciting. So we can claim the little best-selling badge. Yeah, it's an Amazon bestseller, so we can claim that one in 5 categories so far. So if you go buy it, 99p. It obviously contributes to that. So thank you for all of you that bought the book and telling me you're buying the book. Thank you. Do spread the word. The other kind of key component of that, and I would only want you to do this authentically, of course, is to be able to write a review. So we have done a little competition around that. Is if you do write a review on Amazon, there is a link on our website page where you can say, this is my review, submit it to us, and that will give you access to a VIP masterclass, a change management masterclass, because I love talking about this topic, and as I say, I want more people to know about it. I've got my VIP masterclass that you can attend if you write a review for me. And also 5 swag boxes. I've designed a little t-shirt at the weekend with Become a Super Salesforce Consultant because it looked cool. So there'll be 5 swag boxes to give away as well for that. So 2 days at 99p, then it'll go to standard pricing. But obviously if you buy it hard copy, that's the standard pricing for that as well. So I'd love to hear your feedback, either on Amazon or DM me directly. I love just sort of knowing. I think the biggest thing for anybody to take away is feedback is so important for people to know. We all like at Super Mums, we are a socially driven organisation. We love to hear how we've helped you, and what you'd like to see different in the next book if there was another one, or what would be helpful. So do reach out to me and let me know your thoughts.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I know, Heather, you and I spoke recently about doing more of these from more of a content and sharing skill base, and take some of the A to Z and just have a one LinkedIn live session to really dive deep into that particular topic. And I think that is just a tremendous opportunity. Love learning from you. And Pearl had a question: is the VIP masterclass only for the first 5 people who write a review?
No, anybody that writes a review over the next couple of days.
Yes, the 5 people were the, little goodie bags, so that was what that was tied for, but Heather, thank you so much for and you've had quite the day, it's time for you to relax this evening, but thank you so much for sharing all of this great information with the world and the book, and it's really inspiring to spend time with you and seeing the impact and making a difference in people's lives, and congratulations on a great first day. And thank you, all of you, for joining us and investing your time. It's so appreciated. And we'll keep you posted and let you know when we have our next session.
Thanks, Shannon. Thank you, everyone, for supporting us and being here tonight. I hope you enjoy the book.